All right. I have special guest Sarah Gonzalez to help me better understand some of these big stories happening in Washington, D.C. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a blast with you, Stephen.
So, Sarah is a journalist for The Blaze. She also hosts her own show here on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered. I'll make sure to put links to that. Okay, the big story last week was this signal mistake now being turned into SignalGate. It's already gone before Congress with the FBI, the CIA, the Director of National Intelligence. It's now turned into a lawsuit, which Trump hating Judge Boasberg magically, miraculously gets assigned to him. Are we witnessing a coordinated coup against President Trump, or is this just Democrats taking advantage of a crack in the wall to try to remove Kash Patel or Pete Hegseth or John Ratcliffe or Tulsi Gabbard? What are your thoughts on this SignalGate situation?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked it. You seem to have alluded to what I believe it is, kind of hitting the nail on the head there, Stephen. Because when I'm talking to all of my, I don't consider myself to be some sort of a foreign relations expert or a CIA expert or a military expert or any of that. I don't have that expertise, but I do know a lot of people who do and who are. And so in talking to them, specifically one of my good friends here in the building, who has served prior and kind of understands how all of these things work. He said that this 100% stinks to high heaven like an inside job. And when you consider all of the weird circumstances that happened to add this random super anti-Trump, I'll use the term journalist in quotes here, air quotes, journalist, Jeffrey Goldberg of The Atlantic, when you look at all of these strange coincidences and you also look at the history of Signal and the fact that Signal, this platform, has ties to the CIA, then you start going, okay, hold on a second. These are really strange coincidences that all seem to be coming together in order to get this case to a judge that we know has it out for President Trump. I don't think that these are all just strange coincidences, Stephen. I think that these people in the deep state and the bureaucracy are very upset that their plan didn't go according, that they didn't have their plan follow through in picking Kamala Harris to be their little lapdog, their puppet. And so they were very mad that the American people made sure that that didn't happen and reelected Donald Trump. And this is their last desperate grasp at trying to prevent him from implementing his agenda.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know since 2016, Obama tried to get Trump, the Bidens tried to get Trump, the Clintons, Perkins Coie, um, uh, um, Norman Eisen, the mainstream media, CNN, like everybody was trying to get him. He's gotten smarter, but that doesn't mean that they're not. Like the opening scene of Jurassic Park where the raptors are testing the electrical fence. They
Yeah.
are constantly checking the electrical fence to see where can we get past security? How can we impeach Donald Trump? They will do
Yeah.
anything and everything to take him down. And Jack Posobiec put out that he believes that there is, instead of directly going after Trump, it's to pick off these people that they didn't want one by one. Because
Mhm.
as you saw from the votes, when Biden put his people in, a majority of Republicans voted with Democrats.
Yeah.
Like maybe too many of them, right? But they were
Yeah.
trying to be bipartisan and polite, as Republicans stupidly do at times.
Hmm.
But then this go around, I mean, they barely got people over the line. And so I just see them doing a coordinated attack. They just happen to have, the DNI, the CIA, the FBI in front of them, and they have made a mountain out of a molehill. My worry, though, is from what I'm reading, is there are a lot of Biden holdovers
Yes.
from the group, and although I think his name's Waltz,
Yes.
he's accepting responsibility for this, but he's also saying it wasn't me that put the list together. So I don't know. I could very easily see somebody saying, "Oh, I made a mistake. I put this reporter in." Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad that you mentioned, because that's exactly where my brain went. Oh my gosh, I want to make sure to say this, that people think that with the election and inauguration of Donald J. Trump that we are done with the deep state. That is not true. We are talking about a bureaucracy that has, tens of thousands, if not into the hundreds of thousands of employees. You think that just with Donald Trump getting sworn in, that we're going to just have eliminated all of the deep state agents that are within. Not so. We've still got house cleaning to do within the FBI, within the DOJ, within the CIA, within the NSA. I mean, within all of these places. And that is something that I know that Tulsi Gabbard realizes. That is something that I know that the heads of these agencies realize. But unfortunately, it can't be done overnight. And so now they're in a situation where they have no choice but to utilize the people who are already there, because they can't do a job all by themselves. They have to have people who are helping them, knowing that while they're doing that, they have to be rooting out the bad actors. And so there are going to be, some gotchas, I think, that we're going to see within the coming months as this new administration roots out all of these bad actors and makes sure to replace them with the good guys. And I will just add to that, Stephen, it drives me bonkers if you can't see that this was the plan all along. Now you have Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries and others who are saying they won't rest until people like Pete Hegseth are, resign or are fired. They won't rest until all of these people are fired or resign. And it's like, oh, okay, now I see what this was. This was the campaign to get them to make some sort of a mistake, whether or not it was falsified or made up, get them to, make sure that the optics are that they've made a giant mistake so that then they can push for their resignation. And my message to the Trump administration is, of course, do not bend the knee, do not give an inch, do not ask for any of these people's resignations, because that is falling into the trap. Then the left will know this plan worked. We need to continue to do it. Make sure they know that this will not work the next time they continue trying to force this.
Yeah. Well, and they've kind of mastered lawfare, and now
Yeah.
this has turned into a lawsuit where they're going to track everything down and make sure that, archive records weren't destroyed, which is against the law. And, now is this becoming a criminal situation versus a mistake on adding a journalist in? Speaking of lawfare out of Washington, D.C., we've got this Judge Boasberg. Democrat members of Congress were complicit in helping flood America with violent criminals. They told their voters this is normal. Republican reaction to this is what's wrong. Now there's a lawsuit to bring these gang killers back into America. I also read this morning that like 5 Democrat senators will be flying down to Gitmo to try to have the killer gang leaders released back into America. Why would Democrat voters not see their leaders caring more about violent rapers and killers and gang members than American men, women, and children? Your thoughts?
The Democrats, wow. I see. I hadn't heard that they planned to actually visit and try to, create some sort of sympathy for these killers, cold-blooded killers. I might add. It's interesting because the Democrats really can never course correct. All they know how to do is double down on the same bad policies and bad ideas that they have from the get-go. And so this shouldn't be shocking to me, but it just is. It's almost humorous. If we weren't talking about something as serious as ridding our streets from, ridding our streets of violent criminals, of illegal aliens who shouldn't be here, it might be funny because you look at their reaction to this, and I'm watching them and I'm like, you guys are never going to win another election again if this is what you choose to run with. If you want to go to the American people and your argument is we want more illegal gang members running in your streets where your children, you're trying to raise your children. If that is the messaging, I mean, think about it, Stephen. The current 2025 Democrat messaging is these poor illegal gang members, they shouldn't have to be, face consequences. These poor illegal fentanyl traffickers, they shouldn't have to face consequences. These poor, fill in the blank, right? How about We shouldn't be rooting out waste, fraud, and corruption within Doge. You should have to pay more in taxes to go funnel money to Peru for drag shows. I mean, the things that they are trying to say to the American people that we are supposed to say, yeah, that resonates with me, is just bonkers crazy. They have gone off the reservation because I think that Donald Trump has broke them. They didn't know how to handle his first administration. They don't know how to handle his second administration because all he's doing is building from the mistakes that he made the first time around, the people that he trusted that he shouldn't have the first time around. He's learned from all of that. And 2 assassination attempts, I think, will really clarify things for you. And so he's operating on this 100-mile-per-hour, way of operating that no one has ever seen. The Democrats don't know how to deal with it. And so all they're doing is just doubling down on stupid. I can't make any more sense of it. I mean, this is not going to resonate with one single solitary voter. They will never win another election again if this is what they're leaning into.
Oh man, can you imagine if they told the truth and their 2026 midterm TV commercial was, we doubled down on protecting gang members.
Yeah.
We doubled down on getting murderers and killers and rapists back into the country.
Yeah.
Why? Because we care about our voters, right? Like that's the truth. And
Right.
and like you said, you shouldn't be shocked, but you are, and I still am. But I remember the State of the Union where here's these 2 young women that were violated, one for 18 minutes, one for multiple hours, and then lose their life. And the Democrats couldn't stand up. They couldn't show any love. They literally portrayed to the American people, we are heartless. We care more about illegal immigrants than we do our own voters. Like, how do we spread that message out to the American people? Because I saw so many TikToks, so many shorts, so many feed posts saying, I'm done, I'm embarrassed, I'll never be another Democrat again. Now imagine if most of them had their eyes open and they said, wait a minute, instead of making our city safer, you're literally flying on my money to Gitmo to fight for a gang rapist to come back to my community. No, you've lost me. I'll go vote for Republicans the rest of my life.
Exactly right. Well, exactly right, especially if President Trump can continue the great work that he already has in proving to the American public that he is going to do what he said he was going to do. And he's done it in record time. I mean, you have Tom Homan on the streets rooting out all of these. They just, I can't remember, just recently, the other day, they were reporting that they had captured this top MS-13 gang member. And so, you have them making all of these moves that Americans can look at, and any sane, common sense American who is not broken by President Trump can look at that and say, this is a good thing. It's a good thing that we are taking out illegal gang members who shouldn't be here, who are killing innocent Americans. It's a good thing that we are rooting out waste, fraud, and corruption within our federal government because I'm tired of getting taxed to death. It's a good thing that we are fixing schools because we spend way more per pupil than any other first world country with disastrous results. We're getting left behind, and the average American can look at everything that he's done. It's a good thing that we are making our military strong again. We're actually increasing the standards, and we want you to be strong and fit in order to make sure that we have the most lethal military on the face of planet Earth. I mean, all of these things, everyone with common sense, everyone with a brain can agree upon that these are all really good moves for this country. And so to see the Democrats just completely lose sight of that, if President Trump can continue this good work, there's no way they're going to win in the midterms or in the next election.
Yeah. I think I was in elementary school or maybe like early junior high when they passed this No Child Left Behind policy for schooling, right?
Yeah.
And man, I read about some of these Democrat sanctuary cities, cities that have been led by Democrats for 70 years,
Yeah.
and the children don't know how to read. They
Yeah.
can't do basic math. It's like we went from No Child Left Behind to Every Child Left Behind. Now, I know you were recently in Washington, D.C. You got invited to be one of the journalists there, which is so cool. Hopefully,
Yeah.
I get tapped one of these days to go do that. But you got an opportunity to speak with the Department of Education, Linda McMahon. What was that conversation? What was that interview like?
It was amazing talking to her, and I'm coming at it as I'm just a mom from Texas trying to raise two young boys the best way that I can. And all I know personally is that I'm paying a whole heck of a lot in property taxes for these subpar public schools. So I'm over here, okay, we're doing some private, we're doing some homeschool because I have my own poor experience with the public school system. So I'm interviewing her, and it's such a full circle moment of, I'm not even asking you this as a reporter, or as a journalist, or as a television host, whatever you want to call me. I'm really asking you this as someone who cares, who is invested in our future. The children are our future, who is invested in their education, because if we don't have bright young individuals going through our school systems, what are we doing here, right? What is to leave to the next generation? And so I asked her, what is your reaction to the left just sort of melting down over President Trump instructing you to dismantle the Department of Education? And what does the dismantling of this agency actually look like? And it was such a great conversation, because she told me, by the way, we are going to air, you should be able to find all of those interviews on my YouTube channel for those of you who are listening. So she said, let me explain to you, there are a lot of misconceptions about what the Department of Education is. Let me tell you what it isn't. And she went on to explain things that I think that people don't really understand. The Department of Education does not give you guys curriculum in your states. The Department of Education does not educate students. All the Department of Education is supposed to do is funnel funds, in the right places to make sure that the states have funding. That's all, instructed by Congress. That's all that they're supposed to do. So all of this whining and crying from these teachers unions about how they're going to hurt students. Well, no, they're not. And if you are upset about a student in a particular state who may have an education problem, you guys should really get involved in local elections, because the curriculum and, the testing and the proficiency standards and all of that is coming from your state and from, your local officials. And so talking to her about the dismantling of that, talking to her about the need for more trade schools and making it easier for students to go into some sort of a trade school, to go into some sort of a school where they can get a specific skill that will put them on the right path. I mean, it is incredible to see in this country how the teachers unions and just the entire education industry has tried to trick young people into thinking my only path forward is to go through college. That is my only path forward. There is no other way. And that's not really what college was originally designed for. And so I had that conversation with her. It was just the experience of a lifetime to be able to sit down with these people and talk to them about their vision. And, I told her, Stephen, I said, I think you might be the only federal government official who actually your goal is to work yourself out of a job and to take more power away rather than, trying to wield all of the power that you have. You're like, I actually would be great if I just worked myself out of a job, worked myself out of having all of these powers, because we are so far from the original intention of this agency. It's crazy. So it really was a really great conversation that I had with her about trying to transform this country into, making sure that we are not actually, to use a term that you said before, we are actually not leaving behind young children, that we are helping them, and the federal government knows their role in that, and that they empower states to be able to do that for their students.
Yeah. I remember a song, "We believe the children are the future." Yeah. And then the second verse is, "Make sure more money goes to school administrators than students."
Yeah. That was in the lost tapes of that. Was the second line. Yeah.
Yeah. If you played it backwards on a record player,
Yeah.
I remember hearing those stories growing up. But yeah, some of these school administrators, they're making $200,000 to $400,000 a year.
Yes.
Then the kids under them can't read.
Yes.
Like, you give me $400,000, I'll make sure every kid can read. You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of money.
Exactly. Well, and as a homeschool mom, I'm watching that and I'm like, I'm teaching my own children for literally $0. Like, I'm doing it for free, and you guys are driving around in loaded up G-wagons because you're making so much money. Something doesn't seem right here.
Losing weight can feel like an uphill battle, especially with the American diet. From nasty seed oils that hurt us to high fructose corn syrup that makes us even more hungry. Americans have wrecked their gut health. That's where Thermotrim steps in as a smart, science-backed solution. This USA-made fat burner starts by restoring your gut health. Thermotrim has a gut bacteria found in thinner people, but not heavier Americans. Thermotrim helps restore that so you can lose weight. It supports digestion and curbs cravings naturally. Have you tried other products to lose weight and change your gut health? I know I have. For me, Thermotrim is what my body needed. Get Thermotrim to improve your gut health and start losing weight today. Visit redlineremedies.com or snap the QR code. Make sure to use code Gardner to get an additional 20% off. We all feel better when we lose weight, and I want you to live a long and happy life. Okay, you also got to interview RFK Jr. It took me 3 years to get him on my show. We did have a good show, but what was the outcome of that interview?
It was great. I got to talk to him about the new restructuring over at the HHS. I know that the headlines from CNN and MSNBC are certainly like, oh my gosh, mass terminations. Will America's health suffer? And so it was really great to talk to him about what they were actually doing over at HHS. It is shocking when you hear the redundancies that they have within that agency. And so really they're just trying to consolidate because you have this government bloat. I believe that he said that under the Biden administration, HHS spending went up like 38%. Their staff went up like 17%. And as you track you have the tracking of the increase of the staffing and the funding that they're receiving. And then when you track that with health outcomes, the health outcomes are actually going down as the bloat and the taxpayer waste are going up. And so, to hear him cite all of these, we've got 40 IT departments, we've got all of this. So really, we're just eliminating the redundancy because we need to be as nimble as possible. We're not affecting any scientists or any science or studies that are going on. None of that is affected. We're just trying to consolidate so that this is more manageable because the way that this was run before wasn't working, and we need to be able to figure out what is keeping us from being such a healthy country, and we need to do it as quickly as possible. So it was really great to talk with him about that. We talked about the possibility of a new food pyramid as well, because it's just when you look at the old food pyramid that hasn't been updated in forever, it's like, wow, the government really for decades told us that eating 12 to 15 servings of bread a day was going to be good for us. And so, you look at just how ready he is, how poised he is to really uncover what we are suffering from and what we can do to eliminate all of that. I know he just recently went out to West Virginia to talk to the governor about the signing of their, I believe it's 7 different food dye bans that they are now implementing in West Virginia. He has an upcoming report in May that is supposed to be the initial report on uncovering what the initial causes are for what can we look into to figure out what is making our children so chronically ill. And so talking to him about, his vision for making America healthy again it was a really, really incredible. Now, for me, I have to tell you, Stephen, personally, it was a bucket list moment because this is a man who I have followed way before he ran for president. I mean, this is a man that I have followed for a very, very long time. And he has been inspirational to me personally in raising my 2 boys as healthy as possible. And so to be able to talk to the man that has inspired me for so many years, the better part of a decade, really, it was just really amazing. I will never forget it. I hope it happens again someday, but if it doesn't, it's okay because we had a really tremendous conversation.
Oh yeah, it was really, really neat for me as well. The main reason why they're going to have to redo the food pyramid, because they just found all these structures under the pyramids. Have you seen this story?
I did. Okay, so I didn't see it until I was on with Tim Pool like several weeks ago, and they brought this up, and I was like, "What?" I had never heard it until that moment.
Yeah, they're now saying it's quite possible that there's like a bunch of cities that were underground under the Giza pyramid, and they've got these like cylindrical structures that go down. And, all of this stuff is in meters, so it makes no sense to me as an American. But then it's like they got these like staircases that go down. It's pretty wild. I mean, I'm watching a movie called The Silo, or a TV series called The Silo on Apple TV, and this is kind of what the inside of it looks like. But anyway, just a little joke, little play on words. They're going to have to redo the pyramids now.
Yeah,
I mean, we
all
might
of
have
them.
to actually have some pillars, like eat meat, eat fish,
Right,
eat vegetables, So,
right.
well, that's really quite amazing. Staying on the RFK topic, I saw that they are cutting $300 million in taxpayer-funded grants related to gender ideology. Now, a decent percentage of that money was going out of the United States of America, and a majority of that money goes to one state, California. So should taxpayer money go out of the country or heavily to one state to influence confusing children, changing their sex organs, changing their brains before they've even developed? Your thoughts on that?
Of course not. No, not 1 cent of my money, my hard-earned money, your hard-earned money, your audience's hard-earned money should go towards something that is going to push a child into, let's be clear, an ideology that is going to make them more prone to depression, more prone to having, mental disorders, aside from, the obvious, to be more prone to suicide and suicide attempts. I mean, that is what that ideology causes within young children. And of course, why wouldn't it? I mean, you're looking at a child who is looking for guidance, and instead of explaining to them absolute truths, you're confusing them and deluding them. And so they don't know how to process that information. I mean, you can say one thing about all of that money going to the state of California, which, under Governor Gavin Newsom, I know he's trying really hard to rehab his image because he wants to run for president, but he is a snake oil salesman in its ultimate form. I mean, he is just the worst. And so, but there's a whole new level of adding insult to injury when you talk about that money, our hard-earned money, not just going to California, but going to other countries in order to fund this radical ideology, in order to confuse other people's children in other countries. That is just a whole new level of evil when you look at what they're doing. And you have to wonder, you have to step back and go, holy cow. How long did it take us to get to this place? How long did it take us to get to $300 million that we're spending on just this? You guys are sterilizing an entire generation, and you're using our taxpayers to do it. It's bonkers crazy to me that they even got to a place where 300 million was just a drop in the bucket for them to sterilize an entire generation of young people. I mean, it really was insane. Thank God for Elon Musk and the folks over at Doge for going through all of this stuff and rooting it out, because I mean, that is just absolutely insane and evil.
Yeah. Well, and especially with the percentage of people that, they do these radical trans surgeries, and then it's like over 80 to 90% regret it.
Yep.
And think how many body parts they save just by not letting that money go out. So good for RFK.
Exactly.
For putting that on. I got to put on my MAGA hat. I'm jealous of your pink MAGA hat. So I'm going to finish the interview in my
It looks
my
good.
blue.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. We're giving them away on the show. People can follow that link down below. But I wanted my MAGA hat on for this next part. So Tim Walz said, "Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants. We let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI. We let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to say, you're damn right, we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in and we're going to execute them." This comes back to exactly what you said earlier in the show. They don't know how to course correct, so they double down. He's literally shaming voters, saying, you weren't woke enough. You weren't trans enough. You weren't DEI enough. And that's why we lost. Meanwhile, Trump is like, you know what? I wonder if common sense could win an election. I don't know. Your thoughts on Tim Walz's comments?
I love it. I love it, Stephen. I hope that he parades around for the next 3.5 years saying these very same things. I hope that the message to the Democrats is, hey, you know what? Maybe if you just lean into wokeism more, you might win the next go around. Maybe if you continue parading people like Tim Walz and Jasmine Crockett and AOC, maybe if you keep parading these people around, maybe that will help you next go around. I mean, this is just total insanity. And what an insult to the American people that we can't think for ourselves, that we can't look at their border policy, at the open border policy, and say, yeah, we don't like that. We don't want you doing that. We're going to vote for different. That we can't look at the way that they have just, the trans ideology, and that they're trying to defend chopping off healthy body parts of innocent children. And the American people are like, we don't like that. We also don't like it that you guys are allowing biological males to beat up our women in sports. We also don't like, the American people, I believe, are intelligent enough to understand that common sense wins the day, and that all of these radical policies were, of course, bad. So I honestly, Stephen, I applaud Tim Walz for saying these things, and I hope that he continues saying them as often and as long as possible, because I'm telling you, if they keep doing this, they will never win another election again. And that's obviously a big plus for America.
Yeah. I want to see more Tim Walz. I want to see more Kamala Harris, and I want to see more Jasmine Crockett.
Yes.
Although I've got to tell her, you're not allowed to raise your hand like that, Miss Jasmine Crockett. Who are you a disciple of? You got any heritage with Germany? Come on.
Yeah, I am told that is
that. She got busted raising a hand.
Yep.
Pretty crazy. Okay.
Well, I hope she gets canceled.
Yeah. Final question. Want to get your thoughts on this. I love Trump. I voted for Trump 3 times. However, the guy just endorsed Lindsey Graham. Like, what are you doing? Is it because he knows it's really hard to get out an incumbent, so he might as well just keep him in? Because I interviewed the guy that wants to replace him, Mark Lynch. He's like this really great salt of the earth Christian guy that owns a furniture company and just wants to make America great again. Lindsey Graham has bad mouth, backstabbed, sabotaged. Why would Trump endorse him? Any thoughts?
Yeah, he puzzles me on this one, because you're right. He does, he makes some questionable decisions, including, of course, the Mitch McConnell, John Thune situation. I mean, we had a situation where we really could have had a much better Senate majority leader, and President Trump decided, not to back the more conservative option. And so sometimes I think that President Trump looks at who he has received the most loyalty from recently. Because if you look at Lindsey Graham, he does have a track record of doing the wrong things, of going against President Trump's agenda. And you would think that President Trump would have him hung for that, especially when you look at how he has responded just recently with anyone who speaks out against that. But I feel like Lindsey Graham knew just when the right time was to get in line. And you had Lindsey Graham going out there and talking about this Russia-Ukraine war and war forever, and until President Trump got in, and then he fell in line. And he was out there saying, well, I think that Ukraine needs to come to the table. Well, I don't think Zelensky did very well when he came here. I think that was a poor display, and I think that he needs to rectify this situation immediately. And so you saw him coming into line at just the right time. And I'm wondering if that's what saved him, because it's just sometimes, you're right, President Trump does that. The same thing with Speaker Mike Johnson, and so I think that loyalty matters to him. And I think that sometimes the timing of that loyalty is just enough where President Trump is willing to say, okay, you're being loyal to me right now. I'm not going to, get involved in your primary, or I'm going to endorse you. But that certainly is a disappointment. That's a really big disappointment, because it would be so great to get Lindsey Graham out of there.
Yeah, I agree. I just thought of a new way to do Rhino: Republican in need of votes, right? Like he only, like, once he saw, oh, wait a minute, the American people are pretty irritated with Zelensky disrespecting Trump in the Oval Office. Yeah. I better jump on this right now, because I need to get reelected. So I don't know.
It'll be really interesting to see, just really quick, it'll be really interesting to see how involved President Trump gets in here in the state of Texas in John Cornyn's reelection campaign, because John Cornyn has been majorly anti-Trump, and he's doing the same thing. He's trying to cozy up to him. He's trying to act like he's all in the MAGA America First agenda. And his track record shows, of course, that he has not been. So it'll be very interesting to see if President Trump makes that same sort of decision here in the state of Texas with John Cornyn.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of John Cornyn, so
Ugh.
I'd like to see somebody
You don't
new.
claim him.
Hey, Utah was able to get Mitt Romney out.
Yeah.
I don't like the new guy that replaced him, but anyway. Sarah, I know you're busy. You got a hard out. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put a direct link to your X account as well as your YouTube show down below so that people can find you easily. Thank you so much. We'll have you back on. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Great. Thank you. Thank you as well.